Welcome to Leesburg's Parks and Recreation Show. I'm your host, Claudia Verga. The city of Leesburg offers a variety of facilities for our enjoyment. Today, Jennifer McGavro, Leesburg's Assistant Director of Parks, will talk about the different facilities along with the many opportunities available for volunteers to help keep our city's historical sites beautiful. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thanks, Claudia.
It's great to have you today.
Thank you.
What facilities does Leesburg offer for rentals?
Well, when you talk about rental facilities, everybody thinks first of the community building, which is our most popular rental site. But we've got a couple other sites that people can rent as well. We've got the Moat Morris House, and we've also have our 2 pools, as well as numerous park shelters and pavilions.
I didn't know that I could rent the pool.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. You know, the pool's primarily open between Memorial Day and Labor Day. And, you know, people think, well, you know, it's being used by people for open swim. What we can do is we can schedule around the open swim times if you want to rent it for a party. Plus, we also have the Dabney pool, which doesn't have swim lessons and has a much more open schedule. But yeah, contact the personnel at the gym and book your next pool party there. It's just a great venue for it. We provide the lifeguards. It's easy to have pizza delivered there or birthday cake.
That's fantastic. Now at the Venetian Gardens, what kind of rentals do you have there? Is it business meetings? Is it weddings? What type of people rent that?
The community building, it's got a little bit of everything. The biggest room we have is the main room, and it seats either 320, which is banquet style with tables, up to 400. That's auditorium style with just chairs. And we do everything from meetings to parties to dances. We have retirement communities that love to do dances there. They even have the mirrored disco ball. But then we also have the 2 secondary rooms, which are a little bit smaller, that do the similar functions. You can have meetings depending on the size of your meeting, and presentations. We've got Wi-Fi throughout the building that you can hook into. You can do PowerPoint presentations. We have the sound system that you can plug into. We do our chamber breakfasts every month, the last Thursday of the month at the community building. But anybody who wants to check it out, just get a hold of park staff. You know, look it over, see if it fits any of the events you've got coming up.
Speaking of the Leesburg Chamber breakfast, who provides that breakfast?
Oh yeah, everybody who eats at the chamber breakfast knows our caterer is Deborah Davis Catering, and she's just a phenomenal cook with the best chocolate chip cookies in Leesburg. But she's also the only caterer for that building. So if you're going to have catering done there, it'll have to be arranged through Deborah Davis.
Okay, that sounds good. I know how yummy her food is.
She's awesome.
Yeah. Now, Rogers Park.
Yes, Rogers Park it's an indoor-outdoor pavilion. I say it's indoor-outdoor. It's not climate controlled. It's got these huge windows, typical Florida structure, big, huge screen windows to let the breeze come through. It's got a kitchen inside, its own restroom. It's right next to the playground. It's exceedingly popular for birthday parties. Because, you know, you've got the kids there, you can do the birthday cake and the pizzas. If you want to cook out and do hamburgers and hot dogs, there's a huge grill right next to the building, undercover no less, just in case it rains. But, you know, the kids can go play on the playground the whole time. The adults can hang out inside and get the food ready. So that's quite popular during the weekends for our kids' birthday parties, even baby showers.
Now, how do you set up a rental?
You just contact our staff at the gym, and they're at the 728-9885 number. And they'll be able to go into the system, look and see if we have it available. They can go ahead and make the reservation over the phone, and then you just come in and pay your deposit and your rental fee and all that. If it's one of the buildings where you get a key issued to you, you would pick that up at the gymnasium site over on Griffin Road.
Is there a standard amount of time that they rent it, like 4 hours, or can you pick how many hours you want? How does that work?
You can. We're pretty flexible. We've got standard amounts of time, like a half day, you know, which is, you know, from 8 to noon, or if you want to do a full day, you know, from 1 to 5. But they're pretty flexible if you need it longer or shorter. The community building is where it's more of a factor because we have staff there to let you in and then staff that clean up and lock up afterwards. But we're very accommodating with that.
Do you have any idea what an average rental would be for say Rogers Park?
It runs the gamut, to be honest. It depends on the length of the time you rent it for, what your deposit is. We also have nonprofit rates, which is a discount for our buildings. So it's really something that's on a case-by-case basis when you make the reservation. And the staff at the gym will walk you through, do you have this, do you have this? We have special rates for kids' parties versus, a dance, the head count, the length of time.
And it's reasonably priced.
Oh, very reasonably. We keep it competitively priced because of the fact it is a public facility. We want everybody to have the opportunity to rent it. So we keep it very affordable.
I am very curious how much it would cost to rent a pool. I think I might have to have my next birthday party there or something.
You need to invite me then.
Now, being an ex-event planner myself, I have used the beautiful Morris home for events. And it's particularly beautiful during the month of December because it's decorated for the holidays.
It's gorgeous.
So let's talk about the Moat Morris home.
Well, you can rent the Moat Morris home for an event, and the most popular one we get is, of course, weddings, because the beautiful grounds and the house is so majestic. It's got such a great layout, too, for a wedding, with the grand staircase, with the wide wraparound porch, the rose garden. It's got the gazebo. There's just so many options of where to hold the ceremony. And the best place, I think, to hold the reception is on the grounds underneath those big old oak trees that we have. Just a beautiful setting, real shady, and it's got power, it's got water capability. It's even got a kitchen inside to be used by the caterers so that you can get the food heated up and brought out for the event. We have smaller events take place on the front porch, which is huge. And we also have a small parlor room inside the house that can be utilized for rentals for smaller things like tea parties. So it's just incredibly versatile.
It is, and it's a beautiful facility, and it has easy access to the kitchen for caterers, and because you don't have a recommended caterer for that facility, correct?
No, you don't. You can use any caterer you wish to bring, or cook the food yourself and have people heat it up for you. Like I said, it's just very versatile. Lots of good usage. You've got the restrooms outside as well as indoors, and it's right next to the trail there. So the access to it is really easy.
Now, the Moat Morris home has a very special history.
Do you want
to share that with us today?
And I think that's what makes it even more special as a rental site. The history of that house is just so integral with the history of Leesburg. The house was built by E.H. Moat in 1892. He was a real prominent businessman and developer in all of the Lake County area. I believe he served several terms as mayor. Him and his wife had the house built, and then in 1908 they sold it to Bishop Morrison. At that point in time, electricity was brought into the house, and then he sold the house to the Morris family, John Morris, and that was in 1918, and that's when they added indoor plumbing. So it's just amazing to see this house that predated electricity and indoor plumbing. I mean, it was built shortly after Leesburg was platted out for construction. It's a two-story home, but it's got 2 additional floors added on with that huge tower that it has.
It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
That home has a lot of history to it because then it was moved.
Yeah. The original location was on Main and Euclid. And in 1988, Morrison United Methodist Church purchased that property and offered it free, the house, to whoever could move it. So it took about 2 years, but the community, they managed to get the $95,000 to acquire the new piece of property where it sits now at Magnolia and 12th to get it moved there. And that I understand was quite the endeavor. I've seen the pictures at the museum of the house, this house intact, being moved over there.
I I read over 400 people showed up to watch it be moved.
Yeah, and
could that be amazing to be part of that history?
It would be. Well, and so many people were involved in the fundraising for it. So you can easily see that they were really vested in this being a success. Of course, it took another 7 years for it to actually open to the public. Several grants were gotten by several funding agencies, mostly through the state, to refurbish the house. And now it's decorated to period. I mean, it's Victorian era furniture throughout the house. It has a formal dining room and a parlor, the bedrooms, a nursery. It's just amazing to walk through it because you feel like you've just stepped back in history.
It is. It's very beautiful. Now, you had mentioned that you saw pictures of the house being moved at the Leesburg Heritage Museum.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that here in Leesburg, and not too far away from Moat Morris House, we have our own Heritage Museum. And it's 100% volunteer run, and they do a phenomenal job. It's the old Women's Club building, and if you get a chance, check it out. It's free to go in there. And it's just chock full of memorabilia and artifacts and lots of pictures. You know, they can only display so many pictures, so there's others that are kept in storage safe. And the people who run it, they're volunteers. I mean, they love what they do. If you've got a special interest in seeing pictures from, you know, a very specific topic, you know, it's no problem for them to say, you know what, I think we've got some pictures, let me get back to you. I mean, they just do a wonderful job archiving it. A lot of it they've scanned into computers. They've sent me some beautiful pictures they found of Moat Morris back from the 1800s at its original site. I've got some wonderful pictures of a tea party from the 1890s.
Wow. So you mentioned that there was a lot of pictures, but what other items would we find in there?
In the museum?
Yeah.
Oh, there's just all sorts of memorabilia, trophies and artifacts from all the bass tournaments we've had, watermelon festivals, 4th of July festivals, parades, the original shops that were downtown, just significant items that would appeal to not only people with a lot of ties, because as you go through the names of the people in these pictures, there's still names, family names that are in this community today, like Stivender and Lee and Morrison. I mean, those are all prominent family names still here in Leesburg. I mean, these are historic family names, and it's really interesting to see the ancestors, you know, of our current Leesburg residents who helped build this community.
Right. And you had mentioned that there was pictures from the watermelon ball. I want to see what the watermelon ball looked like. It just, to me, it sounds like such a fun event.
Well, you're going to have to come to the museum then.
Now, tours, is it open all the time? Can I just walk in? When is it open? They
have tours, the Heritage Society, and they do a wonderful job, a really inclusive tour. It is the 2nd and 4th Saturday of every month between 10 and 2. You can show up during that time, and they do the tours on a regular schedule. If there's one going on when you get there, you just have to sit and wait till the next one goes through. But for groups, they do special tours. We have a lot of schools that want to go through the house, and they contact the Heritage Society, and they'll get a special tour just for their group.
Okay. And do you have to go on tour days, or is it open every day?
We keep it locked when there's nobody in it or if there's not an event going on, just because the value of the antiques that are inside, you know, all the furniture that's in was all donated by people here in Leesburg, and they're antiques from their family homes. So yeah, it's not something we keep open all the time, but you know, like I said, we're more than happy to show it off if people want to come see it.
That's great. Now, I know the Morris home used to have tours as well. Does that still have tours?
Yes.
Okay. And those are when?
And those are the 2nd and 4th Saturdays of the month.
The same as the museum?
Yes.
Okay.
And they, like I said, they can just get a hold of the Heritage Society staff. The number to reach them at is 315-3100. I'm sorry, 315-1800. Or you can contact us at the Parks office, and we'll put you through to them. You know, they try to keep regular hours answering the phone, so they're there to answer any questions you might have about the history of this great town.
And it is very interesting.
Yes, it is.
It absolutely is. The museum you mentioned is run by volunteers.
Yes.
How many volunteers do we have at the museum?
Oh goodness, I couldn't even begin to tell you. There's probably a core group of at least 15 that are very active. A lot of them are the same faces you'll see at the museum. You know, they do their regular turn there, but then there's other volunteers who come in and do special hours. But just a dedicated group of folks who come in. A lot of them help with the archiving, you know, of the pictures and scanning. Other ones help out at the house more, just doing the tours. So everybody's kind of got their role or their niche that they want to do. And they're real flexible with that because they are volunteers. That's the great thing about being a volunteer is you can kind of dictate, hey, listen, I'm not so much interested in doing tours. I would rather be behind the scenes. I want to, you know, do some of the archiving and whatnot. And, you know, they're happy to get volunteers any way they can.
Now, to do tours, is there a training that you have to go through?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, in fact, to study up on some of the facts for Moat Morris to get some of the exact dates, I asked the president of the Heritage Society, you know, could I get your information that you give people for the tours to train people? And it is a thick binder of materials. It's got background histories on all the different owners of the house, where their children are. And it's quite a history. So yeah, before they'll turn you loose doing a tour, they're going to make sure you know your stuff.
That sounds like it's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't want to learn all that information, but you want to help. You mentioned several different other ways, and they just contact the museum. Mm-hmm. What about any other volunteering opportunities?
Oh, we always have a need for volunteers in the Parks and Rec department. And it runs the gamut. You know, I always need people to help out with the crew out in the field. You know, for example, I've got a small heritage rose garden in front of the Moat Morris house. You know, with staffing, it's really hard to get over there and pull the weeds or tip back the roses. Because, you know, roses, as I've discussed in previous episodes, yes, they need a certain type of care, a certain type of pruning. And it's a little more particular than just going through with the hedge shears. I would love to have a volunteer who would be willing to go there once a week or once every other week just to pull some weeds and trim back the roses, deadhead them. You know, that's the sort of thing that, you know, no job is too big or too small if someone's got some volunteer hours. So it's really whatever you're interested in, contact us. If we don't have something for you, I'm sure we can get you in touch with another department that could definitely use your help.
Now, earlier we were talking about opportunities for students to earn hours, volunteer
yes,
hours. Let's talk about that.
I know the students, they need the volunteer hours, the community service hours. I've been getting a lot more calls for that. It's a little more difficult because the kids are underage or they can't drive a vehicle or have access to a vehicle to drive to certain sites. I utilize them a lot with my crew, but you know, so that they can ride with my crew. I utilize them a lot for weekend trash pickup in the park, meaning, you know, their mom can take them there and mom can sit back and read her book in the park, you know, while the student goes around picking up the trash. But also at the gymnasium site, we have a lot of needs there for help.
Like what? What kind of needs do we need?
Administrative help, helping answer phones, even just cleaning. Just wiping down the windows, helping with programs, assigning uniforms. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that's semi-administrative, but also working with the kids where just an extra pair of hands would really come in helpful.
And you had mentioned about moms sitting in the park reading their book. Well, mom could grab a garbage bag and help out
if she would like to. Like I said, we don't turn down any volunteers. We're grateful for the help.
So when you mention, you know, putting together uniforms and things like that, is that for like the soccer leagues and basketball leagues? Mm-hmm. And
yeah, we've got a lot of programming going on with soccer and Pop Warner, baseball, T-ball, all of that. All of that, you know, we've got helmets and equipment and uniforms, trophies. We set up doing team pictures. And all of that is a lot of phone calls. It's a lot of organizing. And, you know, staff reductions, we're down to, you know, limited staffing to do all this. So we rely a lot on parents of the kids in the programs. But it would be great to have, especially if we had a student who's already involved with sports at school, who has an interest in sports, to be a positive role model and an influence on these younger kids going through our programming. That's where we're really trying to attract a lot of these kids with these community service hours.
Right, because we often talk about the programs and the coaches and,
yes,
and needing volunteers for that, but I didn't realize all the administration stuff that needs volunteers as well.
Yeah, a lot of people think, they just show up and they go to a site and they hit the ball around, but there's a lot that gets set up before they can do that.
Okay, just out of curiosity, because who cleans the Moat Morris home?
We currently have the staff who works out of the community building, but it does get difficult, because there's so many activities taking place at the community building with those 3 rooms. They're constantly busy, especially this time of year. We're going to start having Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas parties going on. So we rely a lot on the volunteers from the museum, the Heritage Society people to come in and help us clean up. They're the ones who do the holiday decorating as well.
Yeah, because like you said, it's decorated to the period.
Yes,
so
it is.
The items in there are quite fragile and need to be taken care of with care.
Yeah, it's not something you just haul in a bin and start tossing around. I mean, it's very delicate. Another area for volunteering is our holiday decorations, even in the parks. The big metal decorations that are lined with the lights. That's a lot of staff time, and that's kind of done as we can around other facility maintenance duties. We get a lot of volunteers who help with that too. Not necessarily putting them out, but helping us string them.
That sounds like that would be a fun family event for the whole family to get involved and give back to the community, like a family community project.
Exactly, yes.
Especially around the holiday times. Everybody's in a good mood around the holidays. Now, are those, when you talk about stringing them, are those the ones that are in the Venetian Gardens that you walk through?
Yeah, yep,
okay.
All of those decorations, I mean, they're hanging in trees, they're lining walkways, they're all around the community building. A lot of bulbs get broken. Every one of those gets plugged in. You'll have a whole line of lights that are out that have to be pulled out and replaced. And it gets to be tedious. And so we probably start that the beginning of October. And like I said, we do it when we can. But that's every decoration. And then before they're hung up, the materials we use to hang them in the trees, we double check those so that they're completely safe.
So they don't fall on somebody walking underneath them?
There's nothing that would take away from the holiday spirit than to have Santa and his reindeers fall out of a tree.
I'm sure people appreciate that.
Yes.
And what about taking them down? Do you use volunteers for taking them down after the holiday season?
Actually, taking them down, yes, we do, for helping us stack and put them away. Because, after the holidays, you get into, after January 1st, it's like, okay, I don't want to see the decorations anymore. Let's just get them out of sight, Because, by the end of Christmas, everybody's tired of looking at the decorations. So it tends to get a little rough and tumble. But yeah, every spare set of hands is another person taking care to make sure we're not breaking those little bulbs, because that's just another bulb we got to replace the next year.
Right. Now, if Leesburg's Park was a department store, it'd be decorated already.
Definitely, definitely.
Well, it sounds like we have a lot of amazing opportunities in the city of Leesburg to volunteer. How could people get in touch with you if they wanted to volunteer, say, for the sports activities, the administration part of that?
They can either contact myself at the Parks main line, 728-9870, or they can call the gymnasium staff, and that's the 728-9885. And of course, all our numbers are listed on the website too for the Parks and Rec Department, or they can shoot us an email. If you go on our website, the leesburgflorida.gov website, and go into Parks and Rec, there's the ability to go in and email us directly. Send us an email.
So you love volunteers.
We love volunteers.
Well, it was a lot of fun today. It sounds like we have a lot of places to hold some great events in Leesburg. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Claudia.
And we will see you next time on the Leesburg's Parks and Recreation Show.